Well, lots of talk over the past few years of defunding the police. Tonight, West Hollywood has done it, voting to reduce the number of armed deputies and using the money it saved to hire unarmed security patrols.
A few moments later.
West Hollywood is fighting back on crime. The city has seen a series of high-profile robberies, attacks, and burglaries in recent months. And bowing to growing pressure, city leaders have agreed to rehire some deputies the city eliminated last year. KCAL News reporter Lori Paris is live in West Hollywood with details for us. Lori.
Well, Juan, what a turnaround this is. The city leaders now say they will add back a sergeant, a deputy, and depending on how things look at the end of the year, perhaps another deputy.
So let's talk about Defund the Police. Now, if you don't know the story about Defund the Police, here's the quick and dirty background. After the death of George Floyd, the Democrats and organizations like BLM started demanding that police departments be abolished. Get that right, abolish the police. Here is activist and scholar Angela Davis explaining it.
Angela Davis, thank you so much for joining me on Up Front. The past couple of years have revealed to many Americans and much of the rest of the world what people of color have long known. The U.S. criminal legal system is racist, and attempts at incremental reform have failed. You and others have called for the abolition of police. Why?
Well, we've known for a very long time that the structure of racism, it's such that it invades virtually all of the existing institutions in our society, and especially the penal institutions and law enforcement institutions. One cannot study the history of the police without also studying the history of racism. And so, I would say that since the aftermath of slavery, people have been aware of the role that the police play in producing and reproducing racism. I think that over the years, we focus largely on addressing specific cases, and we call for justice for specific individuals, and we call for specific police officers to be, quote, brought to justice. And in recent years, it's become clear that that isn't going to solve the problem.
Now, because most sane Americans understood that law enforcement was a necessary component of our society, Democrats shifted the message from abolish the police to defund the police. Here is left-wing Vox changing the narrative from the radical abolish the police to the less radical defund the police.
We often hear issues of safety for mostly white affluent people. And I have to remind those folks that their safety is predicated on the unsafety of Black people.
Opponents of defunding the police have cautioned that after cities like Memphis downsized their police force, there was an increase in violent crime. But proponents point to a major difference between defunding the police then and now. Today, it's not just about cutting police budgets. A key part of defunding is to redistribute those resources and create better responses to crime. That redistribution would still fund first responders, but could force cities to rethink what kind of responders would make communities safer for everyone. Whether it's investing in a new crisis intervention team, a mental health team, or social workers. In some cities, like Eugene, Oregon, and Austin, Texas, alternative models for safety have already been put in place to dispatch mental health professionals to certain 911 calls instead of the police, and putting money into other agencies like housing and jobs to help people meet their basic needs could also end up making communities safer.
Now, some cities decided to defund the police using the alternative methods that were spoken about before. Here's an example.
Now to a highly controversial proposal in Cambridge. The city is considering having unarmed civilians conduct traffic stops instead of police officers. Now, some say it would ease the tension, others say it's downright dangerous.
Now, as you can probably guess, this was a disaster leading to higher crimes in places like New York, San Francisco, and Chicago. Here are some examples.
This is going to take years to correct this, if we even can.
It's a big problem that deserves big attention in all of our efforts to build a better Bay Area. Good evening, I'm Amma Dates.
And I'm Dan Ashley. Thanks for joining us. When we talk about building a better Bay Area, we mean it, the whole region. What has us concerned is widespread increases in crime.
And tonight we're bringing you examples. In San Francisco, crime, staffing shortages, and police response times are all getting worse. What will it take for the city to change?
Telling us that rampant crime has become a regular part of life.
So typical that in the 30 minutes we were at this Walgreens, we watched 3 people, including this man, steal.
Did that guy pay? Did that guy pay? He didn't pay.
Walgreens says this Richmond neighborhood store with aisles of products like mustard locked behind plexiglass has the highest theft rate of all their nearly 9,000 U.S. stores, hit more than a dozen times a day.
We begin with a story that is developing tonight. Chicago police are investigating a series of armed robberies citywide. Just last night, at least 8 were reported in the past 24 hours. NBC5's Lexi Suter is speaking with community activists who are now issuing a reward for answers.
In the heart of the South Loop, 2 25-year-old women were held at gunpoint last night, but the crime didn't stop there. At least 8 armed robberies were reported, also stretching into the north side, where we know at least 2 delivery drivers were victims.
So the reality is that if you decrease police funding and go easy on criminals, then crime explodes. I know. A shocking development. This brings us to West Hollywood, California. See, they decided to go the defund the police route, and here's what they did.
Well, lots of talk over the past few years of defunding the police. Tonight, West Hollywood has done it, voting to reduce the number of armed deputies and using the money it saved to hire unarmed security patrols.
Despite an uptick in crime, there will soon be fewer sheriff's deputies patrolling West Hollywood. In a controversial move, the city council voted to redirect funding to other public safety programs, and that idea is not going over well with many people in the West Hollywood community.
So, let me explain this to you. They hired 30 unarmed security officers, so-called security ambassadors, to essentially stand around and just watch the community. Now, to be clear, they couldn't make arrests. They really couldn't even assist in helping people with any type of violence. Their only job was to stand around and call for the police if something happened. And then guess what? Something did happen.
Take a look as 2 guys go after each other on the street in West Hollywood, and then notice the other 2 guys, block by block ambassadors, watching it play out without stepping in. Depending on who you ask, this either shows the city's security program working, or, as Ethan Reynolds, who took the video, thinks,
I was like, ooh, this doesn't look too good.
It shows it failing. The video does appear to show one of the ambassadors on a phone or walkie-talkie, maybe calling for help. And if that's the case, the mayor's office told me that's exactly what's expected to happen. But Reynolds says anyone can call 911.
If the block-by-block ambassadors are not empowered to mitigate situations like this, which do seem to occur often in West Hollywood, it truly does give us a false sense of security, and I think that's extremely frustrating as a resident.
So after that, more things started happening in the community. People started getting robbed at gunpoint, for instance. See, if you have a whole bunch of unarmed security guards who can't make arrests and can't do anything, that's not going to deter any crime. So the good people of West Hollywood decided that, hey, let's just have people stand on the street corner all day and pretend that they're doing something was essentially a waste of money and a waste of time. So they decided to, quote, refund the police.
West Hollywood is fighting back on crime. The city has seen a series of high-profile robberies, attacks, and burglaries in recent months. And bowing to growing pressure, city leaders have agreed to rehire some deputies the city eliminated last year. KCAL News reporter Lori Paris is live in West Hollywood with details for us. Lori.
Well, Juan, what a turnaround this is. The city leaders now say they will add back a sergeant, a deputy, and depending on how things look at the end of the year, perhaps another deputy.
Now that the people of West Hollywood has come to their senses about the defund the police nonsense, it's interesting to note that West Hollywood isn't the only city that's going through this. For instance, the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, he ran on a defund the police platform. Here's what he said when he was running for mayor.
The president of the United States, the former president of the United States, President Barack Obama, took it one step further as well, and basically said that the effort of the defund police movement lost an audience because of that that slogan, I guess is what he's calling it, which I don't look at it as a slogan. It's an actual real political goal.
But then something shocking happened. He actually won. And you know what he did? He increased police funding. He was even called out by local media for that switch. Check it out.
Mr. Johnson, this question is for you. On multiple occasions, you've spoken on the topic of defunding police. In 2020, you said, quote, defunding this failed system of incarceration and policing was not just admirable, but necessary, end quote. As far as redirecting funds, if we look at your record, you introduced a resolution and passed it with the support of others to redirect money from the sheriff's office to other areas. So first, do you acknowledge making those recorded and documented statements, yes or no?
I'm not going to defund the police.
If you could answer the question, though.
Yeah.
Do you acknowledge making the statements that I just read by quote, yes or no?
What I've acknowledged is the fact that there are people who are incredibly frustrated.
Mr. Johnson, if I could get you back to the question,
of course.
It's solely yes or no. Do you acknowledge making those statements?
Look, you've already quoted. What I'm saying is, though,
so you
is that it
acknowledge
provides
making those statements?
Of course, I'm acknowledging it, but I want to make sure that we have context.
I want to give you the opportunity
to
answer
that.
the question, but I just want to move on to the next part of it.
See, these liberal cities have been hit with the reality of the situation. Policing is a necessary component of our society. In trying to please the BLM mob, they forgot that cutting police services actually harm the black and brown people they claim they want to protect. But at the end of the day, these politicians have to live in the real world. And in the real world, defunding or abolishing the police is a ridiculous thing. As always, do me a favor and tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section. If you think defunding the police or abolishing the police is a good way to go, I'm all ears because I think it's a ridiculous argument. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. And my name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you next time. Peace.